I apologize for interrupting. So to be clear, it's not violent criminals do not receive precedence in terms of the deportations taking place.
The president has also said two things can be true at the same time. We want to deport illegal criminals, illegal immigrants from this country, but the president has said that, of course, the illegal criminal drug dealers, the rapists, the murderers, the individuals who have committed heinous acts on the interior of our country and who have terrorized law-abiding American citizens, absolutely, those should be the priority of ICE, but that doesn't mean that the other illegal criminals who entered our nation's borders are off the table.
Understood.
Karoline Leavitt just destroyed NBC reporter on live radio, and it's huge. Karoline Leavitt, the youngest White House press secretary in history, just went head-to-head with an NBC reporter on live radio. This isn't just a skirmish. This is a full-blown political showdown. During her inaugural White House press briefing, Leavitt not only responded to questions, but also spearheaded the narrative as an NBC reporter, much like Roman Reigns performing his signature move in the WWE ring. This is more than just politics. It's the pinnacle of political wrestling. Keep watching to find out how it all unfolded, because it's huge. The Clash of Titans. Karoline Leavitt versus NBC's Peter Alexander. Karoline Leavitt, known for her sharp tongue, quick wit, and no-nonsense approach, recently faced off against Peter Alexander, a seasoned NBC News White House correspondent. During a live radio segment, what was supposed to be a routine question and answer and policy discussion on immigration and federal spending turned into a verbal battle over one of the most contentious topics in the U.S. today: illegal immigration.
The president has said countless times on the campaign trail, I've been with him at the rallies, I know you've been there covering them too, Peter, that he is focused on launching the largest mass deportation operation in American history of illegal criminals. And if you are an individual, a foreign national, who illegally enters the United States of America, you are, by definition, a criminal. And so therefore you are subject to deportation.
Peter Alexander is not your typical journalist. Known for his incisive questioning and reputation for holding politicians accountable, Alexander has been with NBC for years. His career spans covering multiple administrations, making him a familiar face in the White House briefing room. This confrontation with Leavitt was not just a test of journalistic grit, but also an ideological clash. Sun Tzu, the writer of The Art of War, would smile at Karoline Leavitt's approach to public relations. Her encounter with Peter Alexander was a masterclass in political warfare. Leavitt employed tactics that were both offensive and defensive.
There's no clarity, so I could refer to a lot of them. We don't know what they are specifically. Can you tell us that the lie heap is not one of those affected?
So you're asking a hypothetical based on programs that you can't even identify.
With the precision of a seasoned wrestler, she countered Alexander's line of questioning. It wasn't just about policy. It was about who controls the narrative. Why do you think this confrontation got so much attention? What does this tell us about the current media landscape? The immigration conundrum in the U.S.
We are not backing down on our effort to determine the citizenship status of the United States population. I stand before you to outline new steps my administration is taking to ensure that citizenship is counted so that we know how many citizens we have in the United States. Make sense?
As a professional economist, I can tell you this is grotesque nonsense. The United States is a nation of 335 million people. Big country with a big, rich, developed economy. The number of undocumented immigrants, 10 to 12 million, according to the United States government. And who are they? They are among the poorest people in the country. The idea that the condition of 330 million people would be shaped in a major way by the poorest of the poor 10 to 12 million is ridiculous.
Immigration debates have intensified in the past few years, despite the U.S. long being a land of immigrants. Every aspect from border security to asylum policies has been scrutinized. The surge in illegal immigration has not only sparked widespread debate about strained resources, but also about national identity, security, and policy. Under President Biden, policies like the cessation of the Remain in Mexico policy and more lenient border enforcement have been seen by critics as an open invitation. There's been a narrative, particularly from conservative circles, suggesting these changes were strategic, aimed at potentially skewing voter demographics in favor of Democrats in future elections. The statistics are compelling. Post-2021, there was a significant increase in illegal crossings, with some sources claiming millions have entered without proper documentation. How has changing immigration policies shaped public opinion? Is the increase in illegal immigration purely a policy effect or part of larger global trends? The voting controversy. A hot-button issue has been the accusation that illegal immigrants are being used to influence elections.
On the debate stage,
A lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying.
There's no direct evidence of widespread voter fraud involving non-citizens, but the concern is fueled by the sheer numbers of undocumented individuals potentially impacting electoral districts and resource allocation.
Most Latinos, Mexican Americans in particular, who are voting in elections have family members who are undocumented, know someone who's undocumented. Sometimes they're in mixed status families where one of the two people involved in a relationship has legal status and votes, one does not. So in those cases, you know, the living conditions and experiences of the family are very much dependent on the one person's legal status, because they're able to vote and kind of advocate for their undocumented half.
Conservatives argue that without strict voter ID laws and citizenship checks, the integrity of elections could be at risk. Liberals counter that such fears are often exaggerated to justify restrictive voting laws that might disenfranchise legal voters as well. Voting laws in the U.S. are a patchwork, with each state having its own rules. The conversation around voter eligibility, especially concerning non-citizens, remains a contentious point. Could immigration policy really influence election outcomes? What is the boundary between maintaining electoral integrity and suppressing voters? Violence and crime, a dark side. Part of the political rhetoric involves highlighting crimes committed by illegal immigrants. High-profile cases have been used to argue for stricter immigration control, with stories of violent crimes often making headlines. Instances like the tragic murder of Kate Steinle in San Francisco in 2015 by an undocumented immigrant have been rallying points for those advocating for tougher immigration laws.
San Francisco's city government is under fire tonight after the murder of a woman last week, allegedly by an illegal immigrant. The suspect, who had been deported 5 times, was on the streets after city officials disregarded a request from immigration authorities to lock him up.
Even though the suspect ended up pleading not guilty, the narrative is that such incidents are not isolated, but indicative of a broader problem. However, statistics on crime by illegal immigrants versus native-born citizens are debated. Some studies suggest immigrants commit crimes at lower rates than native-born citizens, while others focus on specific high-impact cases to argue otherwise. How does the media coverage of these crimes shape public perception? Is there a fair way to discuss this without falling into xenophobia or ignoring real security concerns? Trump's hardline stance on immigration.
All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came.
Under President Trump's leadership, immigration policy underwent a significant transformation, marked by initiatives such as the construction of a border wall, the imposition of travel bans from specific countries, and the implementation of policies aimed at curbing both legal and illegal immigration. His administration's approach was about deterrence and deportation, encapsulated in slogans like "Build the Wall." These policies led to significant reductions in illegal border crossings during his term. However, they were also met with legal challenges, public protests, and international criticism for their perceived harshness. With Trump back in office, there's a revisitation of these policies, with Leavitt's comments echoing the administration's hardline stance, especially in terms of defining illegal entry as a criminal act. Were Trump's policies effective or just controversial? How do these policies resonate with different voter bases? Ideological showdown. Liberals versus conservatives. The confrontation between Leavitt and Alexander wasn't just about facts. It was a microcosm of the larger ideological battle. Conservatives often see illegal immigration through the lens of law and order, national security, and cultural preservation. Liberals focus on human rights, the economic benefits of immigration, and the moral obligation to provide sanctuary.
And listen, there is a humanitarian crisis at our southern border, but the groups of women, children, fathers, kids mucking through the dirt trying to seek safety, security, and jobs is a far cry from the militant throngs that conservatives would have us believe are staging a mass invasion and posing an existential threat to the American way of life.
We just have more people working. And you hear this, by the way, from people who are anti-Trump's immigration policies. If you get rid of these people who are here working, then I'm not going to have anybody here to get the job done any longer. But this misses the point. Donald Trump, as far as I know, and conservatives, I know for certain, aren't against immigration. They're against uncontrolled immigration. They're against the idea of just having a free flow of human beings coming into our country without us knowing who they are or what they're up to.
Media outlets have their biases, and this encounter highlighted how these biases can shape coverage. NBC, often seen as leaning left, clashed with Leavitt's conservative narrative, showcasing how media can be both a battleground and a catalyst in political discourse. This incident has fed into the narrative of media bias, with each side seeing it as proof of their perspective on how news is reported. How does this confrontation reflect broader political tensions in America? Can we ever have a neutral ground in discussing these issues? In an era where everyone has a voice, can one person's actions truly sway public opinion, or does it merely amplify existing divides? Media versus government. This event isn't just about one confrontation. It's about the ongoing battle between media and government. In this match, the stakes are high and the rules are constantly changing. Karoline Leavitt's confrontation with Peter Alexander could potentially spark a broader discussion on the role of media in democracy. From the Nixon era to now, the tension between the press and the White House has always existed. But has it ever been this theatrical, this personal? The answer might lie in understanding the evolution of media from objective reporters to play in the political game. The media, often seen as the mirror of society, now finds itself at the center of the story. Karoline Leavitt's challenge to Peter Alexander raises questions about the role of media. Do they accurately portray the current state of affairs, or do they interpret it through their own perspective? From Fox News to MSNBC, each network has its champions and its critics. Leavitt's moment with NBC forces us to look at how media outlets handle confrontations with the government. Is this an attack on journalism or a necessary check on its power? Is the media still the fourth estate, or has it become another contender in the political arena? Can the media remain objective when it's part of the political game? The aftermath. What now? What is the next course of events? Karoline Leavitt's moment will go down in history, but what does it mean for the future of political discourse? Will we see more of these high-stake dramas, or will there be a push for reconciliation? Leavitt's approach could either be seen as a necessary evolution in an era of fake news and misinformation, or it might be viewed as the beginning of the end for open, transparent government communication. Her legacy will be debated long after she steps out of the ring. Will future press secretaries adopt this tribal chief approach? Will they be emboldened to follow in Leavitt's footsteps, or will there be a backlash towards more diplomacy? Will these lead to changes in how journalists are trained to handle such confrontations? The political landscape is shifting, And this match might just be the catalyst for that change. Karoline Leavitt's clash with Peter Alexander is a snapshot of America's current soul-searching over immigration, law, and identity. How do you think this debate reflects the broader conversation on immigration and identity, and how can we successfully navigate the complex terrain of policy, prejudice, and principle? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more political stories like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.